Welcome back to the news today. This is a one-on-one. Zionism, one of the most controversial movements in our times. For some, an historical idea that led the Jewish people back to their homeland, and for others, a symbol for everything that is wrong in the Middle East. The history of Israel and the Middle East is a very rich one, and enough to fill several history books just in the last few decades. Joining me tonight is a woman who knows this history perhaps better than anyone. Professor Anita Shapira is an Israeli Prize laureate in history, has written extensively on Jewish history in the 20th century, and is a senior fellow at the Israeli Democracy Institute. Thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure and a great honor having you. Let me start. You know, for the last few years, maybe for the last 10 years, Zionism became a bad word. When you're saying a Zionist, it's immediately, people are taking it to a bad definition.
Well, but this is nothing new, because this was one of the features of Zionism from the very beginning. At the beginning, it was mostly Jews that criticized Zionism. Then it became a catchword, I would say the punching bag of all the ills of the Middle East. But nothing new about it. Communists, Arab nationalists, etc., all criticize Zionism. And it's amazing that such a small national movement aroused so strong emotions. Yes, it made a commotion in the Middle East, no doubt about it.
But how come? How come it became so... I interview some people, and it seems, and I meet people around the world and Jewish around the world who are sometimes embarrassed to say that they're Zionists.
Well, I would say that the politics of Israel in the last decade, the frustration of the fact that we don't move forward in the peace process is one of the reasons that people feel that Israel is not something that they should be proud of. But the fact remains that most of the Jews and most of Israelis, the very large majority, still think that this is a very positive movement, a rejuvenation movement, a renaissance movement of the Jewish people. So yes, politics should be different. Maybe we hope so. It would be different soon. However, this should not make us discard the whole idea of Zionism, because this idea brought happiness and brought a feeling of identity and belonging to millions of people all over the world.
Is it a problem of advocacy, or is it a problem of not sending the message right? What is exactly the problem?
I think it's a combination of bad politics, frustration, world frustration with the fact that we don't move forward with the peace process, especially after the decade of the 90s that seemed that peace was around the corner, and the fact that Israel is the strongest party in the conflict with the Palestinians, and people expect it to be the part that would give way to Palestinian demands. So this combination of frustration and expectation, I would say, leads to the feeling that Israel should be different.
In your last book, which is the title is Israel, your current book, the Israel History, you're maybe describing better than anyone the Israeli narrative, the Jewish narrative of this country. And of course there is, you know, this country, you mentioned the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and this country is basically based on two narratives, the Palestinian one and the Israeli one, and it seems that they're actually connected one to the other, and you cannot actually disconnect them. But although in this book you're focusing only on the Israeli narrative, yes. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I was commissioned to write this side of the story. Second, this is my specialty. Third, I did not see yet a historian that is capable to objectively tell both narratives at the same time. Yes, I try to very much to understand the Palestinian narrative. I accept the basic fact that there are in this land two national movements that compete for their rights. But I cannot identify with part of the Palestinian claims. And I'm sure that Palestinians cannot accept my way of thinking. By the way, in the 90s, in the late 90s, there was an attempt to write a history book with both narratives. And it did not work out. The difference in opinions was still too deep. And I believe that only after the conflict is solved, only after we have peace, both sides would be amenable to accept viewing the other side's position.
Will they accept to see the other sides, or actually maybe accept the real truth and see the real story?
Well, you see, the real story must be with elements of both sides. There is no absolute truth only on one side. So both sides feel I would say, in a defensive position these days. When peace comes, maybe they'll be more truthful in their presentation of the narrative.
You know, you define yourself as a Zionist, as an Israeli, and you're saying right now that your mission is to tell the Israeli story and the Israeli narrative. And as a person who is writing the history, and you're seeing the mistakes and the goods that Israel is doing, I want to focus on the mistakes because we are in a period of time where there is a peace process that will or will not eventually bring peace to the region. What are the mistakes that Israel did?
Well, first of all, on the road to this point, there were a few incidents that were that I would say that we should be ashamed of, like the Kibbeh incident, like the Kafar Qasem incident, like the fact that there was that there still is the treatment of Arab Israelis not as equal citizens in the allocation of funds, etc., etc. So these are things that I do write about.
Are you optimistic?
I must be optimistic. You know, once somebody said that you don't have to be crazy to believe in Zionism, but it helps.
I cannot finish this better than this sentence. Professor Anita Shapira, Israel, A History, a new book. I thank you very much for coming to our studio. Thank you for explaining us things maybe that people are like to understand. Thank you very much. And thank you, our viewers, for being with us tonight. Tomorrow we will be here at the same time, same place from the Jaffa Port. The news today. Have a great night.